Welcome back, fabricators. I'm excited today. We're going to be doing a review on the newly released MTS 200. So that stands for MIG TIG Stick. So this is a 200 amp multi-process machine, and the guys at PrimeWeld sent this to me to show you guys what it can do. So as always, I wanted to spare you guys the unboxing shenanigans and jump right into the components that it comes with. But I do want to say, regards to the packing on this thing, it is superb as always with PrimeWeld. They use this 1.5-inch foam to go all the way around the machine. There are no spaces in the box, so nothing can rattle around. All corners have these hard shell, impact resistant corners in them. Even if this thing got kicked off the truck, I don't think there would be any problems with it. Okay, so before we jump into the machine itself, let's go over the components that it came with. Number one, we have a 220 to 110 converter plug. As always, I really appreciate this feature. PrimeWeld does this on all their machines, and it makes the machine so much more versatile. If you need to put some heat into something, you can plug it right into your 220 outlet. But if all you have in your garage is a 110 outlet, or you need to go on site somewhere and there's a lot less likelihood that there's going to be a 220 outlet, it gives you that versatility and another option to use. So we got that guy. Number two, we got our ground clamp. This is the same ground clamp that comes with the TIG 225 and the MIG 180. It's the 300 amp ground clamp with a quick disconnect DINS connector and sealed fittings, braided inserts. It's a sheet metal clamp, but overall it's pretty good for the price that you pay. Next thing we got is our stick stinger, and this is a middle line stick stinger with the same 300 amp DINS connector, and I believe, if I remember correctly, this is a 12-foot whip on this guy. After that, we have our gas line hose, and once again, they come in with some good quality crimp lines instead of those hose fittings. It's just overall a good hose. I've been using this hose on the other machines that I have in the shop and have not had a problem with it. And next off, we have our gas regulator. This is going to be the same gas regulator that comes with, once again, the TIG 225 and the MIG 180. It's a standard argon 7525 regulator. Decent quality. I haven't had any trouble with my previous ones. After that, we have our MIG stinger, or MIG lead, whatever you want to call it. This is the same 10-foot stinger or whip that comes on the MIG 180. So far, the only problem I've had with my last one is I believe the liner is starting to wear out, which I think is a little premature, but also a liner is a consumable, so they provide part numbers for you guys, and that's something that I can order and get right coming again. Besides that, it's held up very well and seems to be very durable. What else we got here? Next up, it looks like this machine comes with 2 drive rollers, which is cool. Gives you the option between 025 wire or 030, 035, and then they also provide a flux core drive wire now. So I'm excited for that. At some point, I want to try a little bit of dual shield on some of these and see how it runs. So it's cool to see that we got options for that. And next up here, we have a little baggie that has a multi-tool for you, a little Allen key, and 2 spare contact tips. Now, be aware, these contact tips, it comes with one 030 and one 040. And I'm not sure what the one that comes with in the gun. Something that's important is to make sure that your contact tip matches your wire size. So last but not least is the TIG torch. And once again, PrimeWeld came through and provided a quality torch with this machine with the CK Worldwide. So this is a number 17 flex head, I believe. Yes, it is. And this is one with a gas valve right on it. So this is a scratch start machine. So what that means is you will not be able to initiate it with a pedal, but you'll have to scratch start it. So you have to remember to turn your gas on with this torch. So this is a little different style torch than the TIG 225 comes with. So it looks like this torch comes with 2 different back caps, and it is also the quick disconnect DINS connector. And this is the number 35, so it should be compatible with the TIG 225. Not that you'd want to have to use this, but in the event that you were in a pinch and burned up your other torch, you could use this torch. It would be less convenient to do a scratch start, but it is possible. So let's jump into the machine itself and see what it looks like. Okay, so let's take a closer look at what we got here. Like I said, from here down, it is the same as the MIG 180. So we have both of our power ports. We have the signal port for the MIG torch, and then we have the lug port for the MIG torch here. And then we've got the polarity lead, Whether you are doing hardwire, you're going to want it plugged in over here. Whether you're doing flux core, you're going to be plugged in over here. So with this machine, you're going to be plugging your TIG lead into the negative side and your ground lead into the positive side, because you always want that TIG lead into your negative side. So from here up, we're looking a little different. We only have one knob here, and it's an indicator knob. I'm not as crazy about this. I'm not as much of a fan of digital readings, so that's kind of my bias there. But this knob just kind of feels pretty light duty in comparison to the MiG 180. I realize it is a detent knob, but the knobs on the 180 just have a little more resistance, and they just feel a little more rigid. And then we have two other functions here, and we'll go over these a little bit later, but this is our T2, T4, and then this is our process function, so you can decide whether you're MIG, TIG, stick. And a combination of all these various buttons and taps and turns are going to get you to what you need. But it's got readouts to show what the wire diameter is, what material you're using, what gas you're using, what process you're using. And then this machine, unlike the 180, has an extra feature for stick welding. It's got the VRD, so it's a higher amp start, so it's supposed to help you not stick that rod as easy. And then it's got a hot start and an arc force, and we're going to test those out and see what difference they make. So we'll turn the machine sideways here and take a look at the passenger side of the machine. And as we open this guy up, it's very similar to the 180. The only difference in here is it does not have the switch inside here for the spool gun. Same mechanics on the inside as far as the drive rollers, really solid, got brass components, and like I said on the 180, this clamp mechanism is heavier duty than a lot of lower dollar machines that I've dealt with in the past. It allows you to go either with the 2-pound or 12-pound spool, which is nice. And then also another thing, on the front side, it shows the readouts in millimeters for the wire diameter, and they have a little cheat sheet chart right here so that you can convert that from your SEA size to millimeters. And then also we have our amperage cheat sheet up here along with the multiple functions. They've got it set up for TIG, stick, and MIG to give you good starting points on where to set your settings, and then you can adjust it from there to your liking. Okay, on the back side of the machine here, this is the same power cord that's on the other machines. It's 220 outlet with a 3-prong on here, so you can see it's that guy here with the round and the large and the small. It's about a 4-foot lead on that, I believe. We have our gas inlet, and then this isn't, I don't know if it's technically an upgrade, but it is different from the MiG 180. We have more of a rocker style switch versus the breaker style switch. So it's definitely more ergonomical to switch on and off. Other difference we got here is the fans. We have double ganger fans here, and it looks like these have more blades on them. So hopefully they'll move some more air, and hopefully they'll be a little bit quieter. We'll see. And then final side is just blank with our louvers here. So I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Let's get this thing assembled and melt some metal together. Okay, so the first process we're going to be trying out on this thing is the TIG feature. Now this is a scratch start TIG, so it does not have a pedal. So once you turn the feature on, this torch is going to be live all the time, and you either scratch it off your material, or sometimes people scratch it off with their filler metal. So this only came with the torch body and 2 back caps. So you're going to need a consumables kit. So I'll drop some links in the description to consumables kits. I would recommend going over to Weld Metals Online, and they will get you taken care of. You will want a standard or shorty consumable kit for a CK number 17 torch. And if you use the promo code AMCF10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off on your purchase from Weld Metals Online. Okay, so we currently got the machine turned on here, and as we can see, the readout is on the MIG function. So we're going to go over to our upper selector button here, and we're going to drop this down to the TIG function, and then we can dial in our amperage. Okay, let's see how this works. I haven't scratch start TIG'd in Coon's age, so I might be a little rusty. Okay, don't forget to turn your gas on. Okay, there we go. And I remember to turn my gas off now so I don't run that bottle down. And once I figured out how to actually start the thing, it doesn't look too bad here. We got a nice little bead. This was all operator error over here. First I was trying to start it and then I didn't have enough gas flowing here. But once I got that arc struck, it looks like it does pretty good. It's a little different than the last scratch chart that I used. It seems that you have to actually hold it on the piece for like a second before that arc will initiate. But overall, I think that's a pretty good result. This, not this. Okay, so after messing with it for a little bit, I realized that the problem I was having with striking the arc was due to my ground clamp was way down over here on the table. It was too far away from the part. So that low voltage as I was trying to strike was not enough, and it was taking a little bit, so I had to let it sit on there for like 3 seconds and then the arc would strike. So move your ground up a little closer and then you can scratch it and go on with your welding. So let's go on to our MIG function and see how that works. Okay, so once again, we're at the front of the machine here. We got all our implements plugged in for the MIG feature. So we want to come over to our function select button here and go through MMA and up to MIG welding. We will set up our features within the MIG welding itself. So this machine allows you the T2 and T4 function. In this case, we're just going to be using T2. T4 allows you to pull the trigger, let it run, pull the trigger again, and it'll shut off. But we're not going to be doing any long runs like that. So once we get our MIG function selected there, this is a multi-function knob here, and what you do is you click on it and go through the different selections. Our function set here, we can click on this guy and or rotate it here, and they have an average set with the volts and the inches per minute, and you can dial those in a little bit individually, but for the most part they kind of have a set. This works well with this. Now we have our inductance percentage here, and this goes all the way from -10 to 10, and it just defaults at 0. And just a quick explanation for what that inductance setting is. It's kind of like the frequency on your TIG welding. So this is a short arc machine. So what that means is when that wire is coming out of the gun, it is shorting out on the material and then exploding, and then it has to create an arc jump to the wire, and is doing that multiple times. And what that inductance is doing is increasing the rate of speed that that arc can jump each time that wire heats up and gets that molten puddle. So the higher your inductance is, faster that arc is going to be able to jump. So therefore you're going to have more arc time and a little hotter puddle. So most lower dollar machines have a preset inductance setting, and this one allows you to change that. Sometimes that's a benefit, sometimes it's not. Sometimes with a higher inductance, you will get that faster arc time, which allows a little bit less spatter, which can be nice. And then also, if you're able to turn that inductance down, sometimes that allows you to weld on thinner materials and allows you to put more metal down on a thin piece of sheet metal without burning it out. So for some people, this can be a really helpful feature, and some people, it can just overcomplicate it. So there's not a lot of applications that I would necessarily need to change the inductance from what a factory setting would be, but it's there if you need it. Go past our inductance and we can go to our wire diameter. Now, like I said, there's a cheat sheet on the inside of the machine, and 030 would be 0.8 millimeters. So we want that. We'll click this to select it and keep on going. And then the final setting on here was our gas setting here. And then that allows you to go from CO2 or a mix, and we're going to be running a mix today, so we'll select that. Now you can either click the multifunction button here to go back and cycle through it, or you can let it set for 5 seconds and it will re-zero to your voltage and your amp readout. Okay, so the other cool thing about this machine is, let's say we're going to be welding 1/8 inch. So the inside of the box recommends 19 volts for 1/8 inch. So we'll go to 19 and say the lowest wire speed we got, what we can do is we can go to our top function button here. We can hold that down for 3 seconds. And then once this starts flashing here, we have 9 preset options. So let's just say our 1/8 inch is going to be number 2, because I'll probably want like a 1/16 inch setting. So then we'll let that flash too, and then we'll just push that once, and that locks that setting in. So let's say we want to bump this up for like 3/16. So let's just say 20 volts and 500 inches a minute, just for kicks. Just kind of throwing this at random. So we're going to long hold this top button, let it flash. We want that to be selection 3, and then we push it once again, and then that's going to lock it in for us. So now if we want to go back to that, we go down to load those settings up, we go down to our lower button here. We long hold it for 3 seconds, let it flash. We want to go back to our 1/8 inch setting, so we dial this back over to number 2, push the bottom one again once, and then there we are, we're right back at our 1/8 inch settings. So that's a really cool feature this machine has. It allows you to lock in up to 9 of those preset settings. So if you find something that you're really rocking on, it's really good for certain materials, you can lock those settings in and log them for later, and the machine will keep them until you change them again. So you can maybe make yourself a little cheat sheet inside so you know which of those settings was for what material. So let's do some welding and see what this thing does. Okay, so we got our MIG gun set up, and this is the first time I've ever pulled the trigger on the MIG gun. We have our 1/8 inch keep on here that we use to TIG weld. We're gonna MIG weld the other side of it and see how this works. Looking pretty good. So we're gonna run through some various materials real quick, weld them out, and show you the results in just a second. Okay guys, so I changed sweatshirts into something that already had some holes burnt into it to burn all these materials in, and I want to show you what the results are. But before I do, I want to show you a couple other things that I learned on this along the way here. So one of the things is, over here we have all of the little indicators that show our wire diameter and our material type and our gas selection, and then off of that the machine takes and gives an average and changes both the wire speed and the voltage at the same time, and kind of gives you an average of what's going to work well with this. So we have 18 volts and 380 inches per minute, and as you change that down, there's a little bit of variation in the inches per minute before your voltage changes. But if you do want to go old manual, what you can do is you take both these buttons here and you push them at the same time. And now, as this is flashing, we can just change our wire speed, or we can click it again and just change our voltage over here, or click it again and just change our inductance if we want, and then go back to where we were before. So that was a little reassuring to me that you weren't locked into just the machine settings. The other thing that I learned while I was messing with this thing is that in the event that you would want to run the spool gun on this guy, which it does not come with the spool gun, but it will run the same spool gun that the MiG 180 comes with. So if you want to see how that spool gun runs and how well that works, I'll drop a link to that video up here. But in the event you want to contact PrimeWeld and buy that, what you would do is you just go to the multifunction button and you hold it down, and then your spool gun selection will pop up there, and then you can hold it down and turn the spool gun off as well. So let's take a look at our MIG results and see what we got here. I'm pretty excited with the results that we got. So all these were done with 75-25 mix, and I will start from the top down. So this is a chunk of 1/2 inch material, and All these I just used the automated settings on, so I cranked it up to around where I thought it should be, and we burned this in. So this is a chunk of 1/2 inch, still a little bit warm here, but that's a good 3/8 inch wide weld. This thing was not preheated at all, and it burned it right in. We have some 3/8 here, and that burned in real nice as well. Once again, no preheat on that guy. I didn't actually do any 1/4 inch this time. I don't know why I didn't do that. Then I've got some 120 tubing here, and we burned this guy in on all 4 sides, as you can see here. And it melted in really nice. And I did notice, I feel like it was a little more consistent arc. So I thought I would take a chance. Oh, also here I got a little bit of 16 gauge, and I didn't do any weave. Had my travel speed was just a little fast here, so it's kind of crowning, and my heat was just a little low. I should have had the heat up on that a little bit, but did really good on that 16th inch or 16 gauge material. But like I was saying, I noticed that arc was really stable, so I decided to whip out some razor blades, and I've not been able to do this on any of the other MIG welders that I have owned. The MiG 180 might do this. I honestly haven't tried it yet, but this was pretty impressive to me. These 2 razor blades are 25 thousandths in thickness, and this was a single pass. It wasn't just tack, tack, tack. And so there's good penetration through that, and not an over exuberant amount of heat signature, if that's a word. But it didn't blow through at the same time. It held a smooth, consistent arc. And I have a feeling that this would look even better if I dropped it down to some 025 wire. So this wire is probably a little thick for welding 25 thousandths material. So I would be interested to see what this machine would do with some 025 and burning that down for some sheet metal work. So I think this would be a really good machine for doing sheet metal work. It would probably fit in nicely for doing body work on cars and stuff like that. But I'm not a body man, so I couldn't give the final say on that. Overall, when it comes to the MIG function, I am pretty impressed. I didn't think I was really going to like the digital interface. I have slight dyslexia, and some of that just kind of overwhelms me when you have subcategories under subcategories. I like one knob to do one thing, but once I got to play with it, it really wasn't that bad. It just takes a little bit of finessing and playing with to get it figured out. So now we're going to jump over and see how this thing stick welds and see if the extra features within those parameters make the difference or not. Okay folks, so by popular demand, we're going to bring my grandpa back to review the stick feature on this machine. He has over 40 years experience in the boat and barge industry, stick welding, and so he is far superior to look at a machine like this and see what he thinks. So forgive the filming, I was trying to learn also, and we got him hooked up with audio this time, so hopefully we can hear him a little better, but I wasn't concentrating on filming all that much. I was more concentrating on gleaning all I can glean. So I hope you guys enjoy this part of it. So let's jump in and see how this thing runs some stick rods.
Okay, where were we at?
So this is the amperage on this guy. It's all digital.
Okay, let's go up. Let's just check it up here. We go up about 125 and see what happens. It might be just a little bit warm. Oh, you got to turn that, don't you? Let's go there. Are you ready?
Whenever you're ready.
Oh, it is hot.
It's hot?
Yeah.
Get my helmet.
Let's try that arc for us, that hot start.
Okay, so we want to
See what it does, see if it helps on the low high.
so the hot start is here. So there's a percentage of it. You can go from 1 to 10. Or just start with 5?
Yeah. You know what's different?
What's that?
You know what's different?
What?
I got my hearing aids in.
Oh yeah, remember you saying that last time. I remember you saying you couldn't weld when you can hear.
I don't weld at home with my hearing aids in. See, I'm not used to having these in when I'm welding. It makes it sound different. See, I don't notice that frying egg, frying skillet. I don't notice it without my hearing aids. Well, then I think it's too hot, you see. Too hot
okay, that makes sense.
or got the polarity wrong, you see.
That makes sense. Here, let me turn the hot start up a little more and see if that makes
Okay.
We'll turn it all the way up.
Okay. I didn't really notice the hot in it, the difference in the heat.
Okay.
Fire's melting. You couldn't ask for anything any better.
It melts pretty good.
I take that back. A DC welder, a straight DC welder will give you a smoother burn.
What is this considered then? Isn't this DC? I think this is straight DC.
No. It might be DC, but what I'm saying is a DC welder, like a generator type welder, will give you a smoother arc, less splatter, smoother arc. You see.
Okay.
When you go to AC, like if you got a generator, you got DC, you got AC. AC is just the same, but when you have the DC generator, or say like difference between the AC welder here and a straight AC welder, you're gonna be basically same on AC. But when you go to DC, a DC generator will give you a smoother arc than what a box like this with DC.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's always been that way. The problem is, one of the problems this solves is if you're welding with 7018 and you're getting some thin material. Say you're running a rut pass that's V'd out.
Okay.
With a DC generator welder, you'll burn through that metal.
Okay.
With the AC generator, you won't burn through it. You'll get right there and got it. So when you start welding, if you're welding on the side of the boat or something, you've got just two plates coming together. The AC box like this on the DC is you'll go up that crack, your rut pass, if you're not V'ing it out. So you got 1/4 inch plate, you're not going to V quarter. You might just break the edge with a grinder, but you're welding up because you're going to go on the other side and you're going to scarf it out to your weld, and then you're going to go over again.
Okay.
But the DC generator type of welder will give you more bite, and you have more tendency to go through it than you will with a DC on a box like this. You see. So I've always really preferred this, a box DC over the generator
Unless
DC,
you're welding really thick stuff.
because of that reason.
Okay. You want to try their arc force and see if that makes any difference?
Okay. Now, I don't know if it was me or the welder, but that was easier to start.
That was easier to start.
That was easier to start, yeah.
So that was with more arc force, so that they said it ups the amperage if you're getting closer to the...
Yeah.
Also, that plate's getting hotter too, so it's probably easier to start because that plate's warmer.
Yeah. It's always easier to start a hot piece of plate, a warm piece of plate, yeah. Yeah, I think it's better. I'm a little cold here.
Okay, so I know this is getting to be a long video, but I wanted to give my final thoughts on this machine as a whole. I consider this machine to be a multi-process machine, and when I look at machines, I think a multi-process machine is kind of like a dual sport motorcycle, because I'm into bikes and stuff like that. And it's kind of one of those things where your dual sport is a jack of all trades, a professional at none. So it's okay on the street and it's okay off-road, whereas like your dirt bike is great off-road and your street bike is great on the road. This machine has three primary features. It TIG welds, it stick welds, and it has a MIG weld. I'm going to say for MIG welding, it is an A+. It has a lot more features than I feel like are necessary for a little machine like this, but it delivers the power, it's consistent on the low amperage side of things. It gives you the opportunity to adjust your inductance if you so choose. And overall, I think for the MIG welding, it's spectacular, comes in this small package. Number two is the TIG welding, and I'm going to give it more of a B for the TIG welding. It does come with a CK Worldwide torch, which is great, but it is just a scratch start machine, which is not the end of the world. It does give you the availability to TIG weld, but it's not an AC machine, so you can't necessarily weld aluminum unless you're doing pure helium with DC, but that's a whole nother thing. As far as the stick welding goes, it looked like Grandpa was rather impressed with the way it goes. He did notice a little bit difference with the arc force, and I don't know if we were having trouble with the VRD, but we couldn't strike an arc when the VRD was on. I don't know if we were doing something wrong there. But overall, he was really impressed with how well this machine ran, and he did notice a significant gain in performance over the MiG 180 stick welding. So we're going to give this thing an A+ on the stick welding. So A+ on stick welding, A+ on MIG welding. We're going to give it a B on the TIG welding. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate watching this review. I know it's really long. So once again, if you want to see more fabrication content, click some of the links that are going to pop up here. If you want to see future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you get notified of upcoming videos. And once again, thanks for watching, and go build something, guys.
You see it in the film?
Yeah.
Could you see what I was doing over there?
I can see from this one.
Oh, okay. Now, that's a good looking vertical.
Okay.
That's a single pass. This MG rod,
Okay.
Cooper's got it down, or Napa's got it down there. It's one of the better rods on the market. And I can't go out and buy them because I cussed them out last time I was in this, so I can't go back and buy any more of it.
Oh, really?